This is an extract from the Leader podcast by the Evening Standard, hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for us on your podcast provider.
You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts to that. But the point remains.
Wait a minute, alternative facts?
Right out of the gate, Kellyanne Conway took an aggressive line in her defence and promotion of Donald Trump. That was her on NBC's Meet the Press 2 days after the inauguration in January, which the former White House press spokesman Sean Spicer had claimed had seen the largest audience ever. A provably false statement that Ms. Conway infamously called an alternative fact. Now with her husband George leading a Republican revolt against Donald Trump and her 15-year-old daughter Claudia saying she's filing for emancipation from her parents, Kellyanne Conway is quitting the White House for, in her words, less drama, more mama. I'm joined now by the Evening Standard columnist Matthew D'Ancona, whose book Post-Truth and How to Fight Back examined the influence of people like Kellyanne Conway. Matthew, let's start with her statement. Is that the whole truth? Donald Trump is still behind Joe Biden in the polls right now.
I think it's part of the truth. Kellyanne Conway has had what you might call domestic trouble over her long alliance with Donald Trump. She was, at the helm of the campaign in 2016 that won the presidency, and she's been with him ever since. Her husband, George Conway, can't stand Trump and has until just now been closely associated with the Lincoln Project, which has been very anti-Trump. And their daughter, Claudia, who's 15, has gone on social media saying, she wants to be essentially divorced from her parents because it's driving her crazy. So you've reached a point where the whole family is sort of disintegrating in the public eye. And I think that was the moment when she chose to go. Now, I think there's also an extent to which, for Kellyanne Conway, it's a pretext because bits of red hot engine casing are flying off, Air Force One at the moment. And although Kellyanne has been a very, very loyal supporter to Trump, the woman that he could always depend on, the woman that was never going to go, the woman that was never going to flinch, has actually left or is about to leave the White House absolutely in his direst hour of need, right before this, what's obviously going to be a bitterly fought presidential election with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So actually, although Kellyanne Conway is not a household name to the extent that, let's say, Steve Bannon might be, or the president's son-in-law Jared Kushner, or Ivanka, his daughter, might be, in a way, this is almost as grievous a loss, and possibly worse, because she was the person he could depend upon. And for her to leave so publicly and at this moment is a very big deal.
And she was the one who switched from Ted Cruz to lead Donald Trump's campaign and won, which took everyone by surprise. She does have a lot of political nous, doesn't she?
Yes. I think even if, like myself, you're pretty appalled by almost everything Trump stands for, you have to acknowledge that there were a group of people, amongst whom she was very prominent, who realized that Trump, to use Steve Bannon's phrase, was the imperfect instrument, which is he had huge flaws, obvious glaring flaws, but there was something about him that could get him over the line. And one has to remember, back in 2016, that was regarded as a laughable idea. Right up really until polling day. And she saw that there was something about his combination of sort of brutality and performance quality that made him someone who might, amazingly, for someone who'd never had any political experience at all, get into the White House. So one has to credit her with that level of insight, I guess. It was totally counterintuitive, but she went with him, she helped him win the White House, and crucially, she stuck with him.
But then there was alternative facts, and there was that time that she made up to Iraqis carrying out a terrorist attack that turned out to not be true. And there was that time that she was chastised for apparently campaigning while being a White House staffer. And there was that time she was chastised for supporting Ivanka Trump. Are these the things she's going to be remembered for over and above her abilities as a political strategist?
Well, I think the silver medal will go to her longevity, because Trump gets through advisors and cabinet members like a dose of salt. So the fact that she's survived this long and endured will be part of her legacy. But I think by far the thing she'll be remembered for is sort of under the umbrella heading of alternative facts. And that was a really big moment, because here you had someone who was incredibly close to the leader of the free world, advancing as a kind of plausible way of approaching life, that you could kind of choose your reality from a buffet. You think that it was Obama's inauguration, but my facts say that it was President Trump's. And it caused much mirth and still does, but actually it's an extremely dangerous idea, because it suggests that the facts don't really matter. Emotion is what matters. Allegiance and loyalty are what matters. What matters is the group that you affiliate with. I've got my facts, you've got yours, and I think that's what she'll be remembered for. I think alternative facts is not a bad title for the damage that the Trump presidency has done to politics, because it has taken out of political life the idea that there are things like expertise, research, evidence, institutional traditions, a constitutional background that's much treasured, and simply introduced a level of complete fantasy-driven spontaneity.
Could alternative facts be also the title of her autobiography? Because she must have an extraordinary story to tell. Do you think she'll ever tell it?
Well, I hope so, because I think of all of the memoirs one wants to read, she's right up there. She's a very intelligent person, which in a way makes her complicity in the Trump presidency even harder to acquit,